So it is October 4th, 2024, and in my area in western North Carolina, we sustained major damage from Hurricane Helene. In my specific home and neighborhood, we lost power, we lost water, we lost Wi-Fi and cell service. So it was pretty scary. This was about a week ago. And the day prior to Helene hitting, we had huge rains from a low pressure area, and that then softened the ground such that various trees got uprooted literally and fell over. Now, for me, that meant, again, a number of trees coming down and branches, big branches coming down from like my white pine trees. You can see there's a big truck that you can hear, probably some kind of a helicopter up in the sky. There's various surveillance going on in terms of to assess damage. Now, here, exactly where I am in this town, we were hit, but we were not hit as hard as other places in the West, such as in Buncombe County, which is the location of Asheville, and other parts of that part of the state, such as Swannanoa. In fact, more people, I think, died in Buncombe County than in the other southeastern states that got hit. Now, this is a pretty crude video because I'm not accustomed to making videos with my phone, but over to the left, you see I have that sort of sitting area, that sitting stone. And so I'm just going to walk around here, around this large 7,000-pound boulder. And we can see here that I've blown it off, both the path and some of these stones on which we have sandblasted various mantras and Buddhist sayings. And this one, I'm not sure if you can read it or not, but it is the phrase from the end of the Diamond Sutra, when the Buddha says, how should we teach this scripture, this teaching that you've given us? And he says, like a dream, like an illusion, a bubble and a shadow, like a cloud and a dewdrop and a flash of lightning. So anyway, you can see how I've just thrown debris to the side of the path in order to clear the path. I'm going around it right now, around the boulder. And so, yeah, there is this little tree, this little holly, right there in that center area, and that's kind of cool. Now, we will get over there, but first I want to go a little to the left and show you an example of the kind of branches that have fallen that I mentioned. Is that this one is from one of those three white pines, and you can see there is its ending point right there, and it extends across, and it's too big for me to haul away and get off of the path. It'll take a chainsaw, and I'll need to get somebody to come and do that. That, by the way, is sort of a side entrance to the Stupa area that I generally keep blocked off, but I do want to have this cut up and removed from the path. So again, going back there, of course, is the Kuan Yin Grotto. And again, that is the tree that's in the center. And just to orient you, there is the back of the big boulder, the stupa itself. So just going around this area here, we see a nice bench, and we see, there she is, as her name is translated, the regarder of the cries of the world. And thankfully, this structure was not impaired by the hurricane. By the way, here is one of the white pines that I mentioned. Super tall. You can see many branches over the years actually have fallen off. And they look small, but they are big when they actually hit the ground, as was indicated by that one that I showed you. I apologize again for the crudeness of this video. I probably mentioned I'm not used to really doing videos with my phone, but on this occasion I thought I would, because this stupa is so precious to me, and I'm tickled that it has survived as well as it did. Here, of course, we have a stone that has embedded in it the three treasures. Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. And there's the back of Buddha. So what we're going to do, we're going to exit, again, just to orient you. That's the sitting stone with the big boulder on the right, and we are going to turn and exit this sort of circular walking meditation area and go out to join the main path in this so-called stupa area. But before we go either down the path that way, back toward my house, or the path that way, I'm going to turn around, totally turn around, and we'll get back to the Buddha. And again, highlight that here is the name of this stupa area. I call it the Amitayus Stupa. And Amitayus, of course, means Buddha of infinite life. Life symbolizes compassion. And this is, of course, Amida Buddha. This is one of his two names, the other being Amitabha, which means Buddha of infinite light. Light symbolizing wisdom. And of course, behind it is the Nembutsu, 6-character Chinese Namu Amida Butsu, which of course means I take refuge in Amida Buddha. Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu. And behind it is a neighbor's house. Panning then, again, the sitting stone, if you can imagine, in orientation. By the way, that is a Japanese maple that my sweetheart purchased for me a number of years ago, and it's thriving here in the woods, glad to say. Again, the stupa itself. Oh, I forgot to show what is embedded on that boulder, which is an excerpt, a brief one from the Lotus Sutra, and it's from the 16th chapter, where the teaching is that the Buddha has infinite life. And what he says is, repeatedly, I am born in the world of the living. Repeatedly am I born in the world of the living. The Tathagata said that. Tathagata, another name for Buddha. Thus come one, or thus gone one. Namu Amida Butsu. Okay, now again we're going to exit, and I guess what I'll do is go to the left. I thought I had started this video from another point in time, and I hadn't hit record, so that reflects my my relative lack of experience with this. Again, all I did was I pulled the branches that I could away from the path. Then I got my my blower and blew the path clean, and that's why we can walk this walk in spite of the tremendous water and winds that hit this area of the country. So here, for example, is another huge branch from one of the white pines. Don't know if you can really get a sense of its scope, but it is amazing. It has fallen right into that holly tree, but no damage to that tree. And again, with a chainsaw and somebody that has the skill set, you know, it could be cut up and pulled out of there. Whether I'm able to do that in the foreseeable future will depend on a lot of things, including how much money I want to spend on this project of clearing this out. It was so clean before, and so it's really unfortunate, but you can see here what these branches actually look like in terms of the green aspects of them. And here to the left is getting a little bug off my hand. Here to the left is one of those white pines. This over here is the second one. And when I get far away from these out in the street, I almost think of these three as the Amida triad, with Amida in the middle and then Kuan Yin on one side and then Mahastama Prompta on the other. Those of you who are familiar will know about those particular cosmic Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Now, I had a guy come in here who knows something about trees, and he pointed one out that may be dead, an oak tree. And if it is, I better take care of it in terms of getting it cut down, because if I don't, it is vulnerable to falling. That's it right there. And you can see the roof of my house in the background, and I do not want that thing falling on my house, to say the least. Now here we have just a little area that, again, just off of the path, where I've got a little sitting Buddha and a cairn, which is actually, those are the nature of those rocks in that cairn are symbolic, I think, in the Tibetan tradition, of the different aspects. It's like a little mini stupa, if you will. And of course, next to Shakyamuni Buddha is Jizo, or Earth Store Bodhisattva, Kshitigarbha. And I really like Jizo. He is a bodhisattva who is said to look after travelers and children and women, and also supposedly goes into the hells to help people who are in the hells. But anyway, we're back to the path. There's neighbors over there. You're hearing children. I have a nice relationship with the children over there and that family, and we help each other. The neighbors here have been very mutually helpful, and that's a blessing. So before I turn right toward the house, I just want to make a detour to the left, and I'll show it to you from the back, but I want to go up in front of it because it's another one of those large stones that I blew off, that if you've watched others of my videos regarding my stupa area, you will know that it is the mantra, so to speak, from within Nichiren sects who pay homage to the Lotus Sutra, as do I, and where it says, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is the title of the Lotus Sutra. I honor the title of the Lotus Sutra. Going back to the path as it's actually swinging around now, you can see next to my house. I'm going to try to be careful stepping down. And by the way, under this little Japanese maple here, there's another Kuan Yin. A little bit hard to see because she's kind of small. And yeah, there she is. So back to this, we're actually on the house side of the wooded lot now. The woods are back there, and here's another stone which gives this famous Tibetan mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, which again I think is primarily used within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So going down, a little bit of a hill to the side of the house. I've cleared away most of the sticks, but there's still a lot of sticks and branches. Although again, I think the path has gotten pretty walkable, if that's a word. And over to the right here, what we have is another, I'll call this one Kuan Yin, or Avalokiteshvara. Again, regarder of the cries of the world. And next to, I'll say him at this time, and sometimes it's a him and sometimes it's a her, that we've got the phrase from the end of the Heart Sutra, which is Gate, Gate, Para Gate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha. Gone, gone, gone beyond, gone to the other shore. Enlightenment. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now since we kind of started at the stupa itself, I'm going to turn right and complete the circle by going on the path. And before we do that, by the way, there's the path I'm talking about. Before that, we'll go to the left a little bit and we'll have another Buddha statue. And in this case, we've got the Joshinshu mantra, if you will. Namu Amida Butsu. I love these big stones that I've had sandblasted with these various wonderful phrases from the Buddhist scripture. Okay, here we go. Back on the path. This is a section that I thought I was recording before, but didn't. And so, yeah, I don't know if you can see in the woods some of the fallen branches and some trees actually that have come down. You could probably hear a helicopter. Again, helicopters are going back and forth all the time, checking out damage. And another part of the property down below, there were tremendously big trees that had to be chopped up, and we've got them by the road. The hope is that FEMA will come and pick up the logs. By the way, we now have power and water, but many of my neighbors do not yet have power. I mean, there were a tremendous number of power lines that went down. But that said, we never were in as bad a shape as areas to the west of us. Okay, there's another big branch down. Maybe in the distance you can see other ones that are down. It's hard for me to tell. But this one, the problem with this guy is, as we follow it, that it is actually overhanging the path. So I'm going to have to get this one cut up in order to have the path be cleared, which, will be fairly minor to do. But it's certainly not something I can lug with my own feeble strength as a 76-year-old. But anyway, here we have other parts of my wooded lot. Pine tree and hollies. Very, very peaceful, nice area. But you can see now the big boulder in the background or in the distance, and so maybe you can tell that what we're doing is we're heading kind of to the place where we started, which was in that circular area around the big boulder, the big stupa. And I'm just gonna stop here more or less to say here's another branch that's blocking the path, but there is Buddha, and he is peaceful and at rest regardless of the chaos around him. And yet in another manifestation, in his Sambhogahaya manifestation, he is undoubtedly vigorously helping all the people that have been suffering as a result of this terrible storm. And so for that, I have deep gratitude and appreciation to him and to all of the cosmic Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as well as the Nirmanakaya, the human level persons who have worked hard to bring supplies to people who need supplies, to start communication again to people who lack it, and to help the grieving process for those who have lost loved ones. With that, I'll sign off. Namo Mita Butsu. Namo Mita Butsu. Namo Mita Butsu.